Giovanni Dienstmann, welcome to the Post-Pandemic Pivot Summit. So excited to have you among us today. For all of you who are not familiar with Giovanni, let me just give you a little introduction about him so you could get the whole scope of the luxury that it is to have Giovanni among us. Giovanni is one of the most sought after meditation leaders in the world. He is an international renowned author, teacher, coach, and speaker. And he is the creator of the fifth most popular blog in the planet called Live and Dare. So if you're not familiar with the blog, I cannot encourage you enough to sign up for it and become an avid consumer of his material. Giovanni, thank you for being with us today. One of the things that your work is so empowering and attractive, but one of the things that is very powerful about your work is that you make this very bold statement for your audience, and that is that you could help us gain peace of mind and empowerment and help us live a life of purpose every day. As you know, the audience for this summit are primarily entrepreneurs that either have moved into the space as a result of the pandemic, or they had been in, entrepreneurs for a little longer, but through the pandemic, we experienced some challenges. We may be feeling stuck, and we are ready to move forward in our work. And we know that our mental health and our feeling of purpose is a paramount to our success. Thus, the idea and the honor to have you among us, helping us that you could provide us some guidance in how we can leverage meditation as a primary tool for mental health and growth. So welcome to the summit, Giovanni.
Okay, thank you for having me, Claudia. So there are two things that I teach. One of them is meditation, and that's my blog that you mentioned, one of the top 5 most popular meditation blogs on the world. And the other thing is self-discipline. And one thing kind of feeds on the other and helps the other. I think for you as an entrepreneur, meditation helps you to get to know yourself better, helps you to relax, helps you to have more clarity in your mind, helps you to manage the stress and the anxiety of running a business. Mm-hmm. And self-discipline is at the core it's the core ingredient for you to achieve any goal. Mm-hmm. Any goal that you have in life, in business, in relationships, in health, in well-being, in finances, in career, any area of life that you have a goal, you will need self-discipline. Because whatever goal is meaningful is not going to happen like this, right? There's that saying that it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. So overnight success is a myth, right? It just doesn't exist. It all takes self-discipline. And I've studied this in depth, and I've seen that people who have reached the pinnacle of their field in any field, be it entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, any field, they praise the value of self-discipline almost above everything else. Mm-hmm. So self-discipline is essential for you to be successful as an entrepreneur. Now, what does self-discipline mean? Some people have a negative feeling about self-discipline, that it's forcing yourself to do things that you don't want, or that it's a form of self-punishment. But self-discipline is not self-punishment. Self-discipline is self-respect. Mm-hmm. It is you respecting your commitments to yourself. It is you prioritizing your goals, your values, your vision, your dream above everything else. It is you making sure that the way you live and the vision you have for yourself, they are aligned. So I say that self-discipline, yeah.
That is incredibly powerful. Sorry if I interrupt. Incredibly powerful, because exactly as as an entrepreneur, we often feel that pull and push, right? In our mind, perhaps making full choices of, am I like self-disciplined and I'm going to work really, really hard for my business and make sure that I'm meeting all my demands, but that may be affecting how I live my life with my family, or, so how do you help us think about self-discipline in a global space of encompassing of our lives?
Yeah. So there are two main aspects of self-discipline. There is the external aspect, and then there is the internal aspect. The external aspect are things like building good habits, breaking bad habits, keeping a routine, having a schedule, time management, productivity, focus. All of that is the external aspect of self-discipline, and they're both equally important. Now, the internal aspect is the battle that goes on inside our minds. It's the challenges, the often emotional challenges to remaining disciplined, to remaining on track with our goals. And we're talking about things such as distractions, procrastination, self-doubt, the imposter syndrome that many people have, fear of failure, anxiety, the excuses we tell ourselves. There are all of these internal obstacles to self-discipline. And so in the way that I teach, in my classes, in the book, in my coaching, is addressing both of these aspects. So yes, you need to create a routine that is balanced in your life. And that means that all the different areas of your life, they have their place in your routine. For instance, for me, from 7 to 9 p.m., it's family time. It's sacred family time. So at that time, I'm not working. I don't even have my phone around. I'm just with my wife and daughter. It's family time. Same thing for 1 hour lunch break. Now, at the other hours of the day, I am working and I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm not thinking about other things. So one of the key aspects of self-discipline is building a morning routine. Right. So if you're currently working in a job and your business is a side business, that eventually you want to make it your main business, and that was the journey for me as well, then you need to make sure that you spend some time every day on your business. And the best time to do this is like a morning routine. The idea of a morning routine is that before you start your day, when you are still replenished with energy and you haven't spent your mind, you haven't spent your cognitive ability solving 1,000 different problems and making 1,000 different decisions, you're still fresh. You dedicate some amount of your time in the morning, every morning, to your aspirations. So if it's business and health, then you make sure that you spend some time every morning doing something for your business and doing something for your health. And so this is one of the things that is going to help you remain disciplined. I talk about the 3 core resources that we all have: our time, our money, and our energy. And your life will be a result of how you invest these 3 resources. So if you have a goal, if you have an aspiration of the life you want to live or who you want to become, then you need to make sure that every day you dedicate some of these 3 resources to your aspirations. And if you do that, you're making them real here and now. And if they're real here and now, day after day, they will become real in the future. It's just a matter of time.
That is very powerful. And, as you go through the process of beginning to implement these practices and dividing your attention in these 3 pillars, how by nature of the beast, we are going to struggle at some point, perhaps early in the game or, as we advance. What would be some advice from you to help us kind of like either avoid some of these natural pitfalls or create a practice that will help us to be consistently growing within that practice?
Right. So in mindful self-discipline, I talk about 7 main obstacles, internal obstacles to self-discipline. And in this framework, there are multiple different techniques and methods to deal with each of these obstacles. So maybe we can focus on one of them. Do you want to focus on self-doubt, or you want to focus on procrastination or distractions? What do you think that people coming to the summit will need the most?
So I think that we can focus on distractions. We are full bombarded by distractions nowadays, with our minds are being pulled through hearing the news, just expecting, what is going to happen to my business. You could hear all these challenges. So distractions play a big role nowadays in our day-to-day life. So I think that's an appropriate space to go into it.
Okay, sounds good. So for us to understand distractions, we need to first understand dopamine. So dopamine is the chemical in our brain for seeking reward. When there is a promise of a reward, when there's a possibility of reward, dopamine comes into play so that we remain motivated to seek that reward. So dopamine is extremely important for anyone who has goals in life. You want your dopamine level to be high so that it motivates you to stay on track with your goal. And if you have that, then you're going to be super driven, you're going to be super focused. And it's going to be, you're going to be your best self. Your whole energy is going to be available for your goal. Now, what happens is the moment we satisfy the desire that dopamine is pointing at, the level of dopamine goes down. And so when the level of dopamine goes down, you no longer have that motivation to go and seek something. It's like you're seeking energy, your motivation is standby mode. And what's happening is we are addicted to junk dopamine, what I call junk dopamine or easy dopamine, which means that we have multiple quick shots of dopamine throughout the day. And every time you do that, your energy, your motivation, your drive kind of sinks a little bit. And then after a while it goes up, and then you have another instant gratification, and then it sinks. And so you never allow your motivation, your drive, your focus to really build up, because you're constantly satisfying that human need for meaning, for satisfaction, with pleasures that are very short and shallow. And when I say pleasures, I'm talking about all forms of instant gratification. For most of us, it's the internet, social media, games, news, forums, all of that. And so every time you are getting distracted, this is what people need to understand. It's not only the time that you're wasting, right? That instead of doing the research, or instead of reaching out to a customer, or instead of doing that difficult task, you're getting distracted. So the thing is not getting done. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect is every time you're getting distracted, you are training your brain to, whenever things get difficult, you go after the easy dopamine. And when you do this again and again, day after day for a while, then it's very hard to motivate your brain to do the hard work, to do the work that, you may or may not achieve the goal. And the resolution to that tension of dopamine will only come in the future. So why would the brain do that if you're all the time giving him quick shots of dopamine? So distraction is, I would say, is the major obstacle of self-discipline for most people. And that's why I call, like the subtitle of the book is to living with purpose and achieving your goals in a world of distractions. Right? This is, I'm glad that you picked this obstacle, because these things are only going to get worse. There are billions of dollars being invested in multiple tech companies, getting better and better at understanding our psychology, our brain, and making us more addicted. They make money when we get distracted. They don't make money when we are on track with our goals. They make money when we get distracted, right? That's their thing. And so it's going to get just harder and harder to remain focused, to remain disciplined. So those of us who work on this skill, we're going to have a huge advantage. We're going to have an unfair advantage. We're going to be ahead of the crowd.
And exactly because it could be an unfair advantage and so crucial for entrepreneurs. Are they like three things that you could help us implement in our lives? One thing I love about your book is just basically a roadmap, right? You literally give us a recipe in how we can improve in our lives, which I completely adore. And I could not recommend to anybody enough to get your book, Mindful Self-Discipline, because it's so powerful. But for the audience that is new to you and has not had the luxury of getting your blog or your books, are there three things that you could recommend to us as beginner practitioners to start doing right away, to start getting into that road of being less distracted and more functional?
Sure. So one of these things is the technique of procrastinate distraction. Right. And it's an interesting term, because we are really good at procrastinating. But we procrastinate the wrong things. We are good at procrastinating things that are meaningful but difficult. And instead we do things that are shallow but easy. right? So procrastinate distraction, this method is about procrastinating on the right things, procrastinating on distraction, procrastinating on the fear, procrastinating on the things that is going to take you away from your goal. So the idea is when you're focused on a certain activity that is important for you and distraction comes, you say, not now, later.
Mhm.
So you procrastinate the distraction so that you can remain on track with that particular activity. Let me think of some examples. You know, whenever we are doing something, whenever we're focusing on something, it's very easy to get distracted. You know, but we always have the option to remain focused. We always have the option to procrastinate the distraction for later and first do the important thing. So, for example, let's say that you have a task that you need to do or an activity that will help you take a step towards your goals in your business. Now you're doing that work and your phone flashes with a notification. Will you attend to it or will you remain focused? Or you get a call from a family member that you know that this is going to be a half an hour call. Will you answer it or will you remain focused? Or there's suddenly an idea that comes about a completely unrelated project or an errand that you need to do tomorrow. Will you go and do that thing and forget about this for a moment? Or will you remain focused and just maybe take note to remember that thing? You feel like, you know, doing something else, going for a new task. Will you go with that impulse or will you remain focused? We always have the option to remain focused. We always have the option to cultivate flow in our work, but we're not always making that decision because we're not aware of it. The distractions are so alluring there. They're like big, shiny dopamine buttons that we just go with them.
I love the
So
fact that you're,
procrastinate distraction means that you,
go
yeah,
ahead. I love the fact that you're
say.
immediately helping us in our awareness, right? Just by simply writing down what's the distraction that is happening in the morning, in the moment, and then not acting on it, but just becoming aware of it and start creating perhaps a little journal about them. So we recognize them more and more. It's so powerful.
Right. And so the first thing that you can do when you notice that you're being distracted, that there's a temptation to go into distraction, is you just pause and take 3 deep breaths. So just doing that already creates some space between you and the urge.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is we are impulsive because there's no space. An urge comes and we act on it. So there's no space, meaning there's no awareness, meaning there's no freedom. We're not choosing it. We're just doing it. Now, when you pause and become aware of it, then there is some space between you and the urge. And this space, this pause, is the space of your freedom. The greater is the space, the more freedom you have to say, do I want to do this now or do I not want to do it? One of the things that I say in this framework is every decision we make, all of these small decisions, they matter. And all of these decisions, they can be a +1 in relation to our goals, or they can be a -1. And it's all about becoming aware of how am I getting +1s and how am I getting -1s in my day in relation to my goals. And in this way, mindful self-discipline is all about, it's the art of living life in harmony with your goals and ending each day with a positive balance. Mm-hmm. So whenever you notice that you're being distracted, you pause and breathe 3 times. That in itself is already a +1 because you're developing awareness. And then you say, okay, later. First, I will finish this thing, and then I can go and check that other thing. Mm-hmm. So you are prioritizing your purpose, your goals, not the distractions. And the only way this is going to work if it's non-negotiable, right? You do it every single time. There are no exceptions. One of the concepts that I cover in the book is called the power hour. Mm-hmm. So in the power hour, you decide 1 hour per day to tackle your most important task, mm-hmm. or to tackle the task that is the most difficult, the one that you've been procrastinating for a long time. So during this 1 hour, you then go and put your phone on airplane mode, put the computer in do not disturb, so there are no notifications popping up, and you work with focus from beginning to end for that 1 hour. You can turn on a countdown timer, and during that 1 hour, no exceptions, no distractions, no procrastination, no going to the fridge for having a snack, no nothing. You just stay and do the work. And this is such a simple concept, but it's very, very powerful. Most people know a variant of this idea under the name of the Pomodoro technique, but that is for 25 minutes. And I think we can do much better than 25 minutes. I think we can do an hour, and I think we need to do an hour. So for this 1 hour, any distraction that comes, any impulse to procrastinate, you say, not now, later. At the end, when you finish it, then you can go for the other things. And you will find, this is something that I recommend to almost all of my coaching clients, this particular technique. And the feedback again and again is that that's their most productive hour of the day. Some of them are doing 2 or even 3 power hours per day. So that is a simple thing, choosing a time of the day to do a power hour and combining this with the procrastinate distraction method that I mentioned. If you just do this, you will be more focused than most of your competitors.
So I definitely, for me, the power hour is definitely a winner, and love the procrastination versus the distraction. And what you said of the space of my freedom, those couple of breaths could be the difference between pushing me towards my freedom or remaining stuck in my own distraction. These are powerful tools that we can implement immediately. I cannot thank you enough for your guidance today. This is really the flu shot that we needed as entrepreneurs to be able to move forward. I just want to thank you for your time. Giovanni, thank you so much for participating in the summit. Where can people go to learn more about your work?
Sure. Yeah, my pleasure. So if people want to learn more about meditation, they can go to liveandthere.com. There is a free course there for them to get started. If you want to learn more about self-discipline, achieving your goals, living life on your purpose, then go to mindfulselfdiscipline.com, where you will find the book of the same title and the app of the same title.
Fantastic. Well, we cannot thank you enough for your participation in this summit. I know you have touched the lives of many people by the tools you gave us today, and I know we are hungry to learn more about you. So thank you again for your generosity.
Thank you, Claudia.